It's 12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West.
And this is Reprint.
This isn't breaking headlines. This is a second look with context added for perspective.
This is Reprint, edited after the headlines.
All right, good morning to the West Coast, and of course, good afternoon to the East Coast. I'm Crystal Jordan, editor-in-chief for Lenox and Parker, here with
Victor Flavius on the West Coast. What's happening?
Hey, good morning, Victor. How are you?
I'm great. Just
Good.
great today, yeah.
We are like halfway through, a little bit past midway through January.
Yes, we are.
Isn't that crazy?
I know time is just flying. Yeah.
Time definitely flies. I don't know
yeah.
if we're having fun, but time is definitely.
We're trying to figure. I think this is the figuring out time of year. Everyone's trying to figure out their budgets. Everyone's trying to figure out their travel plans. Everyone's trying to figure out what's next, and it's definitely even the weather's trying to figure out what's going on because it's cloudy here today in California. Is very cloudy today, and I know
it's cold here, and actually we are on the verge. Reports are saying that we're going to have a snowstorm here, and it's funny because I was one of the people that was on the road back in, I think it was 2014, when there was that big blizzard ice storm here where people couldn't, the roads were not prepared. Drivers are ill prepared. I was on the road for 12 hours and I ended up sleeping in a CVS.
Wow.
Yeah, it was because the roads were Atlanta was declared a state of emergency. It was crazy. So whenever I hear that there's going to be ice and snow, I stay inside.
Yeah, I was in 2014, I was in Boston and I remember it being blizzard. And I remember the blizzard that it had, and we were trapped inside for, not trapped, but, we were indoors for a long time, and it just kept piling up. And I was like, oh my goodness, how much more snow can we have, Yeah, and then Texas had their ice storm a few years after that, and it shut the whole grid down for Texas. So I think the storm is headed towards Texas and the mid part of the country. Then up to the East Coast. You might get a little bit in Georgia, I think, but mostly.
My weatherman this morning said, wherever you sleep at on Fridays, stay there. So we had a big event planned this weekend, a social justice award ceremony, and a lot of people are rescheduling events. Atlanta has learned its lesson about not taking heed to weather. So we're doing that. You know what? I just want to remind people, anyone that's watching, to go to lenoxandparker.com because we have some amazing coverage from the Martin Luther King Jr. Beloved Community Awards, and we have a very memorable acceptance speech from Viola Davis. We have great performances from October London, Guapale, and Chance the Rapper. Billie Eilish gave a great acceptance speech. It's just great coverage. So if you have a chance this morning or this afternoon, make sure you visit Lenox and Parker and check that out.
Please do. We look forward to all the comments and people checking out the content.
Absolutely. Yeah. Got some good stuff coming up today. I know. We do a lot. I do a lot of commentary, social commentary on dating and, reality dating shows. And I've got a good piece coming up later today. So check out the site, support your girl and your boy.
Please do support the communities. Well, definitely what we're about. So
absolutely. Well, let's get into it for today. What have you got so far, Victor?
What were you talking about today? Today, I'm gonna bring up the Free America walkout. Yesterday, people across the country participated in what was called the Free America walkout, marking 1 year since Donald Trump returned to office. This wasn't a weekend march. Organizers asked people to walk out of work, school, and everyday life at 2 p.m. It was backed by the Women's March group, and people were angry because of the increase of ICE activity in their areas, and the National Guard and the different policies about transgender Americans, and the walkout happened in D.C., New York, and in California, for most parts. But also it was a breaking point because of the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, by an ICE agent. So that happened yesterday, and at the end of the day, the Free America walkout wasn't about one policy or one party. It was about people feeling pushed to the point where stepping away from daily life felt like it was the only way to be heard during Donald Trump's second term. So that happened yesterday, and it was all over the news, all over social media. People just in streets in Boston and New York and DC protesting. It wasn't planned. I mean, it was planned, but it wasn't like organized to the point of like, somebody like the ones we see, a Million Man March or the Women's March, or this was like a different type of protest. So we see these types of new protests style coming up, and I wonder if this is the new wave of how we start doing things.
So I know there was another, it wasn't Free America, but there was another type of, it was a protest against the president, and it was across the country. This was a few months ago. And I remember just thinking, like, how did people, the word can spread so quickly now because of social media that, you can have people actually join forces in some very, in a very quick turnaround, because we all have access to social media. I'm sure people are following certain hashtags, certain organizations, are probably promoting this. But I guess for me, I wonder in this, and I don't know if like, what is the end goal? Because I think that we should be solution oriented, and I definitely believe that protests are a great way to show that we're not in support of, the administration, but what are we asking for? Like, what is the ask? What is the end goal? What is the purpose of the protest?
I think in this instance, it was just to hit a pause button on, business as usual. I think hitting the businesses in their pockets at a time where people are spending money and whatever the case is. Sometimes the goal is as small as just disrupting the system. When you have kids protesting because the kids walked out of schools, people leave their jobs, and you disrupt society as a regular, just even in small waves, it starts to make an impact. And I feel like sometimes these protests, when they're planned for so long, people make up their minds of what sides they're going to be on. But if you do something as like disruptive, impromptu as this, like, hey, let's leave school, it gives the people a chance to make the decision based upon what's happening at the moment. I think just small disruptions to me sometimes is part of the play. It's like if you watch a football game and the quarterback throws the ball like 1 yard, every yard makes them move closer to the goal line. So to me, this is one of those 1 yard moves where it's like, okay, it's not really a big impact on the game, but it's also an impact moving the ball forward. So yeah, I mean, to answer that question, I think that's what I think it does. Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the viewers that are tuned in live. Hey,
welcome.
Yeah. Judge Z said it was No King's Day. Thank you for that. No King's Day happened here, and it was basically protesting Donald Trump actions, which a lot of people are saying are that of a dictator. And when you see the things that we've seen with his picture on the parks and recreate, like, there's a lot that makes sense that people are upset about with him, the way he moves. It's just it feels very narcissistic. But yes, so I agree that I think that what it does for me, because like I said, I do think like we need to say this is what we want, right? We want this to happen but I do think it lets you know, because sometimes you can feel like, is everybody okay with this? And then you see, when you see this type of protest, you realize that no, people are not okay with this. At least half the country, if not more at this point, are very upset. I saw an article about, some farmers that had initially voted for Trump and now are, very upset with their vote. I'm sure a lot of immigrants are very upset if they did vote for Donald Trump and how things are going. So I think it does kind of connect people that are feeling very frustrated to let you know that you're not the only one. And there are others that are pushing back against the way things are going politically in our country.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where people are starting to form little groups and clusters, and you got to find your tribe. And, where you are in Atlanta is not how it is out here in California. Because sometimes I watch the news and when there are riots happening in LA, I'm here in Orange County and I'm like, I haven't seen any riots. Yeah. I haven't seen any big things. So sometimes in small neighborhoods, things happen. Mm-hmm. And we're not like aware, or we're not like part of it because we don't feel it. Mm-hmm. But people are doing different things around the country and experiencing different things economically and socially. It's affecting them.
I kind of think we're all experiencing economic.
Yeah, we are.
Issues, the inflation. I saw also this morning on the news here that cost of housing costs are rising. It's been very difficult for people to buy housing at this point. I was talking to my mother. My mother is 76 years old, and she was saying that she heard that they're now implementing a 50-year mortgage.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous. 50 years. I mean, how old would you need to buy your house in order to have it
25?
Barely.
25.
Barely, yeah. Because life expectancy is not 75 across all demographics. Sometimes
no.
Life expectancy. So I think we're all feeling the economic restraints. I just, but kudos to the people that participate in Free America. The Free American Walkouts. Peaceful protests are always, I think, important.
Yeah, we need to keep protesting whenever. The people only have protests as their way to fight back on voting, because we can't change the laws, because the lawmakers, Congress and Senate have their jobs to do. So our job as individuals is to stand up for our rights that we believe in and to peaceful protest. Speaking about peaceful protesting, we just came off of MLK Day yesterday. So, I mean,
a couple days ago.
Monday, on Monday. So, so this goes back to even that, like, peaceful protest is something that we all need. Well, yesterday was the day before. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Okay, what else is happening in
in the world? We have Nicki Minaj versus Don Lemon. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. This was crazy yesterday.
Yeah, this week's viral culture clash is between Nicki Minaj and journalist Don Lemon after Lemon covered an anti-ICE protest that disrupted a church service in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Minaj blasted Lemon on social media using a homophobic slur in her post and calling him to be locked up for reporting. Language she later admitted she intentionally used to generate attention. Don Lemon, who is openly gay, responded by condemning the slur as bigoted and inappropriate, saying Minaj's comments were divisive and showed a misunderstanding of journalism. The exchange quickly turned into a large debate about media coverage, protest reporting, and celebrity influence. Mm-hmm. With Lemon insisting he was simply doing his job, while Minaj framed his coverage as hostile to religion and unfairly biased. So right now that's going on with Nicki Minaj. She's fighting against Don Lemon in public and saying, that she intentionally said what she said on X
to get his attention. I think we have to, because a few friends of mine, journalists, called me about this yesterday.
Yeah,
and I saw, because I tuned into Don Lemon's live, his live on Substack. And speaking of Substack, if you guys are on there, please, check out. There's a lot of amazing journalists on Substack. I'm on Substack. And but I talk about some different things. But I checked out his live, and because I didn't understand the context, which is why conversations like this are so important.
Yeah.
The context is Don Lemon followed a group of people into a church that were protesting, and people were saying that oversteps the boundaries of journalism, right? To go into a church, there should be, in our laws, it says there should be a separation of church and state. His point was that he found out that they were going to be going in and protesting, and he was doing his job as a journalist to go in and cover. I saw a lot of mixed feelings online about it. Of course, after Nicki got involved, then it became more about the debate between the two of them and her making some very personal, putting out personal slurs against his sexual orientation. But it actually started with people being upset and uncomfortable with a journalist using church grounds to, kind of like weaponizing that space that's supposed to be, for some people, considered their places of worship, to be off limits. So I want to ask, what do you think about that? What do you think about a journalist going into a church and protest, showing the protest? Because the journalist is not actually doing it. But I feel like Don Lemon is also, he's a journalist, but he's really a civil rights he's an activist to me more than he's a journalist.
Right.
It's definitely not. To me, the word journalist speaks to being objective and to sharing both sides equally. I don't feel like Don Lemon does that, but I do think his voice is very important. I see him as an activist, at this point, more so than just a journalist. So an activist going in to capture footage inside of a church. Do we feel churches are off limits for that type of thing? What do you think?
So I there's a couple of things that, as you were speaking, I was thinking, right? And there's a couple of things that I realized about Don Lemon. He's openly gay. He was a major player in the news media for 10, 15 years, on the big screen.
Yes.
Yeah, on the big screen. So with the big corporations, now he's independent. He's also a Black man in America. And he also deals with a lot of social justice issues. So you mix all of that together in one pot, and now he has his own platform that he's on. I don't think that going into a church and reporting or videotaping, or however you want to call it, live streaming a protest is a problem, or anything is a problem. I mean, the job of a journalist is to go where no one can go, to show the world what's happening. So it's the same thing with journalists going behind the scenes, in the wars that we had in the past, Gaza, Iraq, Iran, whatever, and being there on the ground and showing the world what's happening. It's the same thing as journalists, during the civil rights movement, showing stuff. So I think his job as a journalist is to remain unbiased and to just show the situation. I don't think that him being there was a wrong thing, because how else would we know about the situation if we didn't see him? Now, it would have been another news media outlet showing it, right? It wouldn't have been him. So I think
I think he had the ability to do that because he is not objective, and I'm not saying that his stance is right or wrong, but I'm saying that he's not objective.
Right.
I think we all know that. And I think that's when you come away from, he was with CNN for years. So when he was with CNN, he probably had to report from a very unbiased position. But having his own platform, now he's able to be very opinionated and to share his personal feelings about politics, civil rights, and things like that. So I think it's hard to speak as a journalist when you are just very obviously on one side.
But the conversation is not what he said, or not even what he did. The conversation is because he was there. If he said something that was offensive or anything along those lines, it would have been, that would have been the headline news, but it wasn't that. It was just that Don Lemon was at a protest at a church, and it kind of stops there. He didn't show. I didn't see any clips of him asking a question that was inappropriate or saying anything that was inappropriate. He basically showed up spoke to the pastor who was there, let the pastor or whoever that was the protest was against, he let that person speak and say what was on his mind as the guys in the back protest. So the fact that he was just there, if that's the main cause, then where does journalism go from here? If we can't, if a journalist can't be in anywhere, what's the point, So for Nicki Minaj to get on her platform and to say something against him about religion, that's very hypocritical because Nicki Minaj is not known for religious content. She's on the the more extreme side of anything in music. She's the most extreme artist in music, even visual. Now I'm not dissing her or saying bad, but visually.
But she's not the most extreme, but she definitely is.
I mean, when I say most, I'm saying in her genre and in her demographic, she wears the colorful hair. She dresses extreme. She acts out extreme. She has multi-personalities that she talks about. She have albums with multi-personalities. She raps in different tones and whatever. So this is not a diss. This is more of a creative view of what I see because I'm a creative myself. And I look at what she's done from her career, beginning of her career. It's always been a disruptor in her space. Nothing against her accomplishments. I'm not taking away all her accolades that she had. Those she would have. But if you look at the artist and the person, she's been disruptive in her space. So for her to have a LGBTQ community and Black woman community supporting her, and now she alienates that group, and now she's talking about church, and now she's talking about government, and it's like, okay, you're not the same person. So for her to attack Don Lemon, it's like, why? We don't even know why you did that. Anyhow.
Well, we do know why. We do know why she did that. Nicki, as of recent, has become a political advocate for Trump and JD Vance. She was, she spoke with the Erica Kirk. She came out as a advocate for them. And so I feel like, this is just my personal opinion, I feel like her attack on Don Lemon, and she's attacked many other people as of recent, is really connected to her now seeing herself or trying to be an advocate for the conservative Republican Party, right? And it is a huge contradiction to her art, as you mentioned. I agree 100% with you. Adrian says, speaking of Don Lemon, he covered things in real time. It doesn't get any more true than that. And I agree 100% with that. I don't feel like he was, I think people see him, like I said, more as an activist than journalist, just because he has been so outspoken about his political beliefs and choices. I think Nicki Minaj, I don't even think she needed to be in it. It kind of took the emphasis off the conversation about the division of church and state. Now, so I agree with you 100% on that. I think she entered in and made it a personal attack, because her using those slurs towards his sexual orientation, it totally, I'm not sure what's going on with Nicki Minaj right now, but she's definitely alienating her entire fan base, her core audience. And we see that she lost 11 million followers on Instagram after her appearance with Erica Kirk and some of the things that she said. But I do want to ask you this question before I don't think about, we weren't speaking about this morning in our notes, but there was this huge controversy over a comedic skit by comedian Drewski, that has become a huge crossover success. And he made a skit basically as a parody of some mega pastors. And I would say that the parody represented certain African-American mega church pastors. And this caused a huge uprising online. A lot of people said that he was wrong for doing that because it was painting the church in a negative light. Other people said, this is true, what he's saying. The skit showed a lot of these Black mega church pastors basically taking advantage of their congregation in a financial perspective. He had on, I believe it was like Louis Vuitton, Christian Louboutin shoes, and he was making
bottoms,
basically saying that they were like pimping their congregation. What do you think about this? Because like I said, it caused a huge uprising on social media. One of the pastors that people feel like the parody was pulling from was Mike Todd, who came out yesterday and said that people were more distracted by this parody that they weren't even paying attention to their children. I thought that was a bit of a stretch. He said he thought it was funny, but he didn't find offense with it. He doesn't believe it was speaking about him. And then he also, like I said, he said that people were so, stuck on the parody that they weren't able to focus on their daily activities, taking care of their children and things like that. Do you think that the church should be a place that is excused, that we, there's a reverence that we should allow churches and pastors in media? So should they be a part of parodies? Should journalists be able to go in? Do you think that that's a sacred space, or do you think that this is a space that we have the ability to also critique?
I feel like okay, so this is my opinion, of course. It's fair game if you make it fair game. Mm-hmm. If you open the door to something, you can't be upset after when someone criticizes you about something. Mm-hmm. Just like in court, right? When you go to court, I'm sure you've seen movies before and TV shows. When you go to court and a person says something and the judge is like, no, we're not going to bring that into the conversation. That stays out of it. Now, if the opposing side asks a question and the person answers a question, it opens the door to exploring that. So these pastors, they stand in the pulpit and they want the world to see how their preaching format is, and they get on social media and they have all these different clips that goes viral, and a lot of those clips are clips that they make themselves. They have the camera set up and they get the dramatic scene and all this stuff, and they plan these things from week to week to show their preaching style and to get their word out. Well, you have to take the good with the bad. Once you open that door, you're now opening your church to criticism of your preaching style, of you. It takes, you're a public figure. And so you have to know that, and they know that, so they know what they're doing. So I don't take it any way, because if it was anything good, if there's something good happening, you wouldn't be able to use that in your skit, because I'm sure there are over 100 plus mega pastors or 100 plus pastors and didn't make the cut because here are these guys that the young people look up to or go to church to, and they share clips around and we see it. And we ourselves laugh at these pastors like, wait a minute, what was that? He's flying through the sky. He's wearing these flashy clothes. Every week there's a new outfit and a new slogan, and they make these things, and then so you can't be mad at someone if they're giving, if these people are using your content against you.
Yeah,
you made the content. Drewski didn't go make something up. This is something that you personally did. So
you gave him the fodder. I agree. I think for a lot of these pastors, specifically some of the ones that might have felt a little bit sensitive when they saw that parody, I think if you use the trappings of the world and materialism to attract attention, then you have to take the attention that gets, right? And so if you make a point to go and make sure that you're appealing to people outside the church, which is what I think they're doing. I don't think they're trying to appeal to people in the church wearing Louis Vuitton and Christian Louboutin and doing all these over the top antics and stunts. I think the stunts are to get the attention, to push them into more of a celebrity like place. And so, like we said the other day, like if you are a celebrity, that kind of comes with the good comes with the bad. The good comes with the bad. So you want this attention, you want this multi-million-dollar business based on your preaching style and the fact that you are positioning yourself to get attention and painting yourself in a celebrity light. So when that happens, you now are also up, vulnerable, just like celebrities are, for all that attention. The higher you go up. And I think for me, the problem is that a lot of them are doing these things specifically to attract that type of attention. You want to go viral. Like there's things you're doing, and you're saying that you want to go viral because you're trying to preach the word. But I think Drewski's skit proves that it's not really the word that's connecting with people. When you do these and all these over the top antics that are materialistic and are, one of the church rhetoric would call it, secular, right? So then you attract that attention, and you're going to get that. That's the smoke you're going to get. So you play secular games, you get secular smoke.
People know the real. We know the real. We're not naive, especially in the day of social media. We know the real. So you see a pastor preaching from his heart, and the camera's on him. We know that somebody filming from the audience. But when you have these mega church pastors that have a whole crew, 5 or 10 people with cameras all around them and moving lights and a whole show that goes on, we know first of all, his preaching style is a skit. It's all performative. You know, what he wears is, it's a skit. There's been times where pastors have different outfits on and change clothes. And, there's a lot that goes on with the production of church. Some of these mega churches have a huge production room, and they have meetings, and they're saying, what are we doing this Sunday? And how are we going to do it? And some person control the lights. Somebody control. It's a whole production. So we can't sit here and mix. See, what happens is they mix the word of God, your emotions, and then they mix the the commercial side of things together. When you mix those together, that's what you get. People they're playing your feelings. Oh, this is God. We shouldn't play with God. You're playing with God. Every Sunday you come here, you play with God, and you want to tell me you don't play with God. So it's very hypocritical for these pastors to get on their platforms and then, do things with their wives or their congregation, and then want to come and defend it afterwards the following Sunday, like I didn't do nothing wrong. Why would you look? No, you did. You opened the door to that. So take it as it comes.
They're under attack. The enemy is attacking me. No, attacking you, sir.
The enemy's not attacking anybody.
The enemy is not attacking. It is you. I stand on what I said. You play secular games, you're going to get secular smoke.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's. What else is your president up to?
Oh my goodness. Okay, and while cultural wars and media clashes dominate the headlines, there's another story flying our way on the the radar. Donald Trump is threatening Greenland. People of Greenland. Donald Trump is back.
Around and find out, did he?
Put that back up. Put that back up.
Oh my God.
Greenland is back in the headlines after Donald Trump doubled down in a long-running desire for the United States to gain control of the Arctic island and anonymous territory of Denmark. What makes Greenland strategically important is the location in the Arctic Circle between North America and Europe. It's a key area of military security, early missile detections, and new shipping routes as the ice melts. So there right now, there's a lot of national security issues, a lot of trade issues going on between Canada and China. And the takeaway from this story, because right now they have a summit going on, and Donald Trump for the whole week was saying that Greenland needs to be owned by America, that, years ago, 100-something years ago, somebody came to Greenland by boat, and that's not a big deal. We need Greenland for us. The whole takeaway for this story, if you're looking at the news and listening to the news, I want you to ponder on this. Global warming is happening in this world. Right. And as the ice melts and stuff happens, Greenland becomes a trade route. This country, countries make their money, commerce on trade route. When the Panama Canal was being built, America needed to control the trade route. It's all about trade and commerce. And so Greenland is a place where they can have national security, they can have a military presence, which they do have, but who controls the trade routes, control the economy, controls the world power. And so America wants to have that dominance in the world again. So Trump is saying Greenland needs to be part of America. And now he's saying at his in his speech this morning, he was telling the European nations that he is not going to threaten military action, but he is going to. But America won't forget if they don't support his cause.
Right.
So, yeah, Trump is acting very, special right now.
Well, I mean, you said earlier, this is Trump acting out as we're in 1 year, right? This is a year that he's been in office. And I think this is exactly what we got a year to go. We got 3 years ahead of us. I don't know. We've just been talking about Greenland for a bit since all this has happened. And I know we all know that this is oil based and based in corporate greed, which this country was built upon. But how would do you know what would need to happen for Greenland to become a part of the United States? Like what we haven't seen anything like that happen since in our lifetime. So what would that include?
I think that's to be more like military takeover. Right now, America is, sending tariffs to all the European nations, and they're trying to disrupt NATO. NATO is all of the alliances across the board in Europe and the different countries, together with America. Trump is even proposing a new board, some new I forget what it's called. He's even proposing a new peace group that he wants people to pay $1 billion to come in and join or whatever, because he's trying to disrupt NATO. NATO happened after World War II because they wanted to put together the nations to form peace. So he wants to now make a new peace board and bring people in. The situation with Greenland's a small part and a small island. But again, it's about trade routes. Trade routes for trade to happen for not just oil, but shipping routes. And once we control the shipping routes in that region of the world, we control the economic movement because Russia is nearby. China is involved. And so all these nations that want to get this trade route. So the biggest issue is that America wants a trade route, because once the ice melts, then it opens up a route for ships to pass through and make, and that's what the real issue comes in. For it to actually happen, that would be it would be a military issue. But then what happens is we now lose the respect, and we have been losing the respect for all the other nations. Canada just formed a new peace treaty or new trade treaty with China. America's mad at that because we had the alliance with Canada, and now Canada has an alliance with China, which some of the trading going on. And so we're seeing Trump across the board disrupt the whole economic spectrum. Yeah, he's messing with it, and all the countries. Not only that, but this also would start affecting our travel. So now when countries want to, America's no longer looked at as this place where people want to come to. It's like, oh no, these Americans are, our American government's not good. And they start closing borders. And so it's real disruptive right now.
It is real disruptive. I do want to acknowledge that when you go to other countries, you assume that everyone thinks America is this amazing place. And that's really not true. When you go places, you hear very different outlooks and perspectives on America. And I am assuming it's getting worse.
It is.
But I do think that this country was built on this type of greed, And
it is.
We try to make it, like America is this great place that's built on dreams, and that's not true. That's true.
It's not.
From the way things were done. And I think that I also just kind of feel like for us as African Americans, because we know, even though this broadcast, we are definitely inclusive to everyone, but we speak from the perspective of African Americans, right? And so, that's our goal, is to make sure that our voices are heard. I think a lot of this, we have never been treated as American citizens with full rights, and so I think a lot of this doesn't include us, because I think for the first time, others are feeling the oppression financially and in other areas. And so I think that it feels very hypocritical sometimes for African Americans to stand up in support of a country that has never made amends for the way we've been treated and how here. So that's just that. But I also will say, to Tammy's point, the military doesn't want to be stationed overseas, and we do know that a large percentage of the military here, the U.S. military forces, are people of color. So that it does involve us in that regard. But I just think that we should always remember that this country has been built on this. It's just Trump is very forward and loud, but there's been a lot of the same type of motivations and things behind the scenes that we just, he's just very loud. But speaking of all of that, while all of this is happening, while Trump is telling Greenland to F around and find out, and Drewski is parroting mega churches, and we are in arms over free America and no kings. The world, the sun, the sun released the largest solar radiation storm in over 20 years. Powerful solar activity released by the sun reached Earth on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, causing colorful aerial displays and GPS issues for aircraft, according to the National Weather Service's Space Weather Prediction Center. Solar radiation storm ranked at a level 4 out of 5 on a severity scale was tracked by SWPC. The center designated the event as the largest solar radiation storm in over 20 years. Solar radiation storm marks the release of intense, rapidly moving charged particles toward Earth and can impact space launches, aviations, and satellite operations. The last time a severe solar radiation storm levels were observed was in October of 2003. The Halloween space weather storms of October 2003 resulted in power outages in Sweden and damages to power transformers in South Africa. When solar radiation storms reach Earth, they can cause increased radiation exposure risk for astronauts in low Earth orbit, like those aboard the International Space Station, as well as passengers on flights that are traveling polar routes. I just thought it was important for us to be aware of
add some nature in there.
What is going on? And I think that we've been making all these phone calls. This is what the SWPC says, to ensure that we're keeping all the critical technological infrastructure operators in the know of what's happening. During increased radiation risk events, astronauts can move to parts of the space station that are better shielded, as they have during previous solar storms, like an extreme geomagnetic storm that occurred May 2024. All these things affect us. We both are people that fly quite frequently, and those are things that are a bit scary. I think it's also just indicative of, I believe that, when all this unrest and disruption is happening on the Earth, I think that energy affects the Earth. And so I just thought that was an interesting story, and something that we just need to be aware of, because I feel like by the time CNN is reporting this, or whether our news sources are reporting, things are probably a lot worse than they are making us believe, right? Because it's all happening behind the scenes, and they don't release the information until they absolutely have to. So just wanted everyone to be aware. It's just that solar radiation as well is happening this week. It's a lot going on in January. I mentioned earlier that we are always speaking from the perspective of the African American community, and HBCUs, I think, are really the lifeblood. I was not blessed enough to attend an HBCU. I don't think you did either, Victor.
No, I didn't. But I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends are.
Yeah, most of my friends, most of the people that I am friends with here in Atlanta have strong HBCU roots. And I think it's important to share these stories. I know a few years ago, people were upset about Morris Brown potentially losing its accreditation. The school was able to be reinstated. and things were moving along, and the school was being supported financially. Things look good. A couple of days ago, the president, Kevin James, announcement went out that he was relieved of his position. And yesterday he was reinstated. Actually, he was removed from his position for 1 week. The school released a press release yesterday saying that he was reinstated as the president of Morris Brown College just 8 days after his abrupt termination by the board of trustees.
Do we know why?
Absolutely crazy. Well, that basically Morris Brown reinstated the president. It fired last week. He was let go because they did not give us a specific situation, but we knew that it had something to do with his fundraising and the fundraising and something with funds, right? Something was out of the way with funds. And so they didn't necessarily say, but it was abrupt. So the fact that it was abrupt let people know that there was something that they felt was not a good representation for the school. And they terminated him without providing a specific cause or a substantive explanation. But like I said, I'm here in Atlanta, and there was a lot of talk about there being some misappropriation and things not being done correctly. Following the ouster, the college posted a statement thanking James for his service and then announcing Nzinga Shaw, who I'm familiar with, as interim president. And then yesterday, the college reinstated him.
Took a step back, huh? They walked it back, huh?
And I don't think I've ever seen something done that quickly. I mean, him being released was big news that first week of January, and then him being reinstated 8 days later. James, who led the school's hard reset in 2022 reaccreditation. So the school was just reaccredited in 2022. I knew it was recently. They had previously characterized his firing as a result of board overreach. So the board released him, and then obviously some other people had a second look and reinstated him. The college has updated its official leadership directory to list James as president again, although officials have not released a formal statement explaining the sudden reversal. This was crazy.
That sounds like a legal battle going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And maybe they jumped the gun to release him, and then contractual, they probably were like, wait a minute, we have more, there's more that could happen to us if we fire him and he retaliates, which I'm sure he's gonna do now. Because what do you do in a situation like that if it happened to you? Do you take the job back, or do you like, okay, well, this is my job, but now I'm gonna retaliate and I'm gonna sue you guys now for this? So
yeah, it's bad. I think you lose either way, because if you are released publicly from this very, very high profile position, and then you are brought back because, like you said, maybe it wasn't done correctly and they realize they can be sued. What I would do, and I would come back and I would immediately begin to file a lawsuit against the school. Yeah. Because I think with him coming back, there's not a way for there to be, they're not going to be on the same page. There's not going to be able to be continuity between him and his team and the board, right? There's going to be constant friction because you literally want me out of here, you know?
Right.
Tammy says St. Augustine in Raleigh, North Carolina is also going through accreditation issues. I think, we realize that a lot of our HBCUs do not have the funding. A lot of those programs and funding was cut with this administration, right? And so I know Morris Brown had been going through problems for, financial issues for a long, long time. But we do know that a lot of our schools, we have to do more, I think, as a community to support our HBCUs. But I also think we have to support them financially, but we also need to hold them accountable for doing things above board and with excellence, right? And so in this situation, like I said, I would take the position back just because I would want to cross all my T's and dot all my I's, but I would immediately file a lawsuit, because that is public humiliation.
Right.
And then, like you said, I don't believe coming back, what is that relationship going to be like? It's really bad PR for the school it's got to, and that leadership, that break in leadership, that disconnect in leadership is going to trickle down to the administration, teachers, and ultimately the students. And so I hope that they do address this. I hope they bring in some powerful PR people, crisis PR people, because what you need to do at this time is to figure out, how can we make this, first of all, the students and the faculty feel like the leadership is in agreement and they're working together. That's the first and foremost. Even the parents are probably wondering, like, what is going on? We just had a president, you guys fired him, you brought him back. What's going on? And I think the overall morale of the school is in jeopardy with when you move like this. And it's just unfortunate that it's one of ours. So hopefully they will. I definitely will keep an eye on this story because, like I said, I think that they need to bring in a crisis team to set up some procedures and put things in place so that the student body and the administration staff feel like they can trust the leadership.
Yeah, I wonder if this affects the student coming in for the next year. I
would definitely, if you were a parent, which I wouldn't send my child to a school where there's this type of discourse happening in the news. I would be like, yeah, they don't really know what they're doing over there. Let's don't worry about Morris Brown. Let's try someplace else. So I think that, like I said, they need a crisis team immediately because that's what happens. Is like the students that are there. You got to get students through a 4-year program, a 2-year program. I'm not sure if they have a master's program, but you've got to retain those students that you have. And then you also have to realize what this will do for students considering Morris Brown as an option. And I know as a parent paying, I would be like, no, we're not going to go there.
Yeah, we also have to look at the history of Morris Brown, see what happened before. Maybe this might be the first one, maybe something that happened that we don't, once you find out what the situation is.
I'll definitely do some research on this, but I do know that, like I said, the school lost their accreditation, and because they're here in Atlanta, they had lost their accreditation, and the community was really trying to come together to have the
support.
School. Yeah. So, many students probably will transfer. Again, if I was a parent paying, my trust in the administration would be shaken.
Right. It would be. Yeah. You're right. Right.
Okay.
What else you got?
Also on a social issue, this is interesting. Jill Scott has a new album coming out, and so she's been doing press surrounding the album. First of all, I want to say that we are excited. I'm so excited that Jill Scott has a new album. The album is titled "To Whom This May Concern." She's released the first single. It's been received extremely well. Everybody receives Jilly from Philly well. But in an interview recently with oh my gosh, she did an interview with Angie
Martinez. Yeah,
Angie Martinez. I was thinking Angela Yee, but Angie Martinez.
Yeah.
And she was talking about her experience while filming Why Did I Get Married? She said that she was really disappointed in one particular situation that happened while on set. She took a trip down memory lane with on the In Real Life podcast with Angie, speaking about her times on the set of Why Did I Get Married. While her experience was mostly positive, she shed a little light on what it was like portraying her character Sheila and what she subsequently had to go through in order to authentically bring that character to life. If you guys remember, Sheila was married to Mike, and that was probably the most fractured relationship on the show. They actually went through a divorce. He was unfaithful. He made a lot of negative comments about her size and the fact that he was no longer attracted to her, berated her. It was hard to watch, but I also think it was a reflection of what a lot of women have gone through in their marriages. I did not know that while playing this character, Jill Scott actually had to wear a prosthetic suit that made her heavier, look heavier and bulkier than she actually was.
Didn't know that too.
Yeah, I mean, because first of all, Jill is one of them girls that we think, I guess you think of her as plus size, but she's so fly and she's so sexy and she owns who she is with so much confidence. I think I've listened to podcasts and people talking about her as this album's come back as one of the sexiest Black women alive. People love Jill. Men love Jill, not just people. Men love Jill Scott. But she told Angie Martinez that she was not fond of how negatively people in the cast were talking about her character. Now, she's not talking about her co-stars, she's talking about the extras. She said the plane scene where Sheila is heading alongside Mike and their friend to the mountains, in that scene, her character is overweight and she can't fit into a seat on the plane, and they're very rude to her on the plane. I think a lot of people have dealt with this. And so she ends up having to drive herself. Her husband does not leave with her. That was just one of those extreme.
That was bad.
Movies always show Black men doing extremely hateful things. I just want to say that. So while they're in the scene, the extras, I guess Tyler Perry told the extras to just, say what they would say to someone that was overweight, or to say some insults about that. And so she felt like it went too far. She said that she had to put on the fat suit, and the whole event was unpleasant for her due to the extras. I didn't like how much people would make fun of her. I remember the scene on the plane, the scene on the where Tyler Perry encouraged the extras to make fun of me. They were just going back and forth making jokes about Sheila's weight. And I had on this whole fat suit, and it was cumbersome, but the walk was genuine and the sitting down was genuine, and all the things. The folks on the flight really went in on the fat jokes, and it sucked. I felt like it was a little abusive. Sorry, Tyler. I hated that shit. I sincerely hated it. They were just going at it. So I don't know if it sounds like she had not shared that with Tyler Perry. And that movie came out in the early 2000s. So it's been years, probably over a decade since that.
Yeah, has been.
But I'm glad that she shared that, because even though she may have had on a fat suit, I think there are a lot of people that have that experience, that's just who they are. And I think people are very insensitive. She said that the movie allowed her to reframe how she viewed her own body. She said, I decided I am not fat, but I have some, and it made me feel better. And that's how I decided to move through my life. Like, you're not going to define me as a thing. I am multicolored. I am multidimensional. And Jill Scott always, she's such a beautiful personality and beautiful spirit. But what do you think about that? I always think it's a very touchy subject when you are on a plane and someone, I've heard people can't fit the seatbelt, maybe they need a seatbelt extender, or it's uncomfortable for other people. Some people have been told they have to buy 2 seats. It's just weird.
I feel like, so in today's climate in 2026, I don't know why airlines don't accommodate for that type of stuff, because there's some people that are bigger. Now, I've been on a plane in this past year where I was sitting on the plane. I was sitting in a window seat. A gentleman comes to sit next to me. He's bigger, and he's bigger. He's not fat, or he's not overweight. He's just a big guy. Like, he maybe was like 6'5" or 6 whatever. Big guy, like a big guy. And he pretty much had me squished to the window side. It was an uncomfortable trip from the East Coast to the West Coast, because it was a long flight. But I can't, and he himself said, hey, I apologize that I'm sitting here. I had tried to get another seat, but didn't have any of the seats. And the seat I actually normally get is a separate seat. Yeah. So, as a human being, I'm just like, okay, I know it's not your fault, because you didn't make the plane, you didn't make your seats. So obviously you have no control over this. As far as Jill Scott is concerned, it's a very human experience to feel that way when people are berating you about something, or, teasing you about the way you are based upon the way you look. But, and I say but slightly, because Tyler Perry, as a director, he was trying to pull something out of the scene that
on both sides
obviously worked, right? Whether or not the extras went a little far above and beyond, he did his job as a director and said, hey, in order for me to get this emotion from her to feel a certain way, because if she was a skinny woman and then she had to put on this fat suit, and then she wouldn't have feel that, right? So obviously, to me, there was something more there in her life that she was dealing with personally, that affected her more, which we all have to think about when we're dealing with people, because everyone has,
different experience.
Baggage and traumas, that they go through. But he obviously from a place for saying, hey, I know I want to get you this. A lot of times in movies, they'll tell you, think about a time when you had trauma or issues you went through, and pull from there to get the scene done, to get to invoke whatever you're trying to get for that scene. So as a director, I'm sure he was happy with what he got. And now he's finding out 15 plus years later that, hey, I didn't like the scene, but I did my job. I did my job, right? You might not like the scene, but I did my job. You know what I'm saying? But I do understand where Jill's coming from, and you know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you were given a role and you accepted the role, you did the part, and you know, it's just conversation. I don't think there's anything bad with it. I mean, you again, it's a balance, you know.
I agree with you 100%. I didn't think about it in that aspect, that Tyler did do his job in that creating that uncomfortable, because that would be the situation, right? The person would feel uncomfortable. I also think telling extras to do that without giving them a script and just having them pull from what is inside, you got some very real, authentic. You know,
so it's not Tyler Perry is the problem. It's the people that had their own. People, society in itself would do things a certain way that would, you know. I
think a lot of people have things that they want to say. They just want to say it, and so when they get the license to say it for the part, I think it comes out. But I'm glad Jill spoke up. But I also think that Tyler Perry is a master at what he does, and that is a perfect explanation of that. One more social issue happening. Besides, speaking before we wrap up the Jill Scott piece, Jill and hopefully Jill and the rest of the cast, some of the cast from Why Did I Get Married? Another installment of that franchise is on the way. We don't have a date yet, but we do know that Tyler Perry is working on that. So I'm excited.
Okay. Looking forward to seeing that.
Excited to see that. When the first installment came out, I was married. The second installment came out, I was divorced, and now for the third, I am remarried. So I'm gonna take it. Experience different with every single installment. But I'm definitely it's a great franchise, I think, because it definitely speaks to Black love in a really multi-dimensional way. Shouts out to Jill Scott. You guys pick up that new or stream that new album. You know, excited to have Jilly from Philly back.
Yes, we are.
Last but not least,
oh boy,
Holcomb, who can be a bit of a outspoken, putting it mildly, comedian. He has a podcast that he does a lot of commentary that gets under people's skin. But he and Anton Daniels almost came to blows on the 5150 show, which is Corey's podcast. So the argument started. They said it was about manhood and culture, but basically Corey Holcomb was confronting Anton Daniels about some statements, and Anton Daniels said that Black people can be some of the most racist folks out there. Well, if you know anything about Corey Holcomb, you know he is unapologetically pro-Black, and so he did not like that statement. I don't really like that statement myself. So Daniels questioned what Black folks even wanted and pointed out that in his community, he lives in Detroit. He's hired over 50 people, and he's not just talking slick online. Anton Daniels, I feel like in this, I don't know if anybody saw the viral clip that's been floating around of the two of them getting into it, but I feel like Anton came and with something to prove, because this is a Black man. In case you are not familiar with him, he is a Black man, speaking about other Black people as though he is not one of them, which was interesting. And so Corey Holcomb said, I lose respect when dudes start sucking up to white men. That's the easy way. And Holcomb's Daniel said that Holcomb was pandering to Black people. He said he was pandering to Black people, and he was speaking as though he was not a Black person. That's the only thing that shocked me. So Daniels challenged Holcomb to step outside, which is funny because I actually thought it would have been the reverse way, that Holcomb would have asked him, but Daniels asked him to step outside, which is funny because he's the one that was saying Black people have all these problems, but he was like, let's step outside. And so Corey asked him, well, are you Black? And he said, I'm Christian. I don't ascribe to any of that other stuff. Who told you were Black? And Corey's like, okay, so are you brown? And he's like, he doesn't ascribe to anything. He just sees himself as Christian. At this point, Corey said, manhood is all we have left. You don't disrespect a man to his face and expect it to be cool. And they ended up talking very heatedly in each other's face. I thought that there might have been a point where there was a blow exchange, but they did manage to not do that. But I wanted to just pose this question before we get out of here. I consider myself a Christian. I also consider myself a Black woman.
Me too. I mean,
heterosexual, all these different things. But I don't think that one thing makes me not the other. So I did kind of take offense to Anton saying that he was not Black, he was Christian. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a very mixed. I don't know how to put this. A lot of people, the skin color issue and nationality and faith, all those things are, mixed. Because, okay, so in America, when you say I am a Christian, a lot of times you're lumped into a group of people, and you say Christian, and in this country, nationalism goes along with that. So like evangelicalism, all that stuff goes all together to lump sum. So some people are wary when they use the word Christian. Some people are worried when you use the word Black because it denotes something that America has a stigmatization or whatever. So it's one of those things where it's a construct that people are like, I don't know if I want to live in those two places. So everyone has their choices how they would like to carry it, right? These two gentlemen that are fighting on a podcast, I don't think it had any value when it comes to our community. I thought it was very disruptive. I don't know each of them separately. I've seen a couple of clips here or there with them on it, but I don't know why that was even a thing. Why are you fighting about your manhood and your Blackness and your, everybody have their audience that they're addressing and they're talking to. I heard this on the Joe Biden podcast. I heard it on, different podcasts that was talking about it. And I was like, okay, and in the grand scheme of life, what is this going to help? How does this help my day to day with these two guys fighting and battling back and forth? It doesn't help our community one bit. It's like the Nicki Minaj and Don Lemon situation is not helping the situation. You're actually adding more to something that's not even there.
I agree. I think that both of them make now Corey didn't in this particular broadcast, but I've watched Corey Holcomb for years. And he does make statements that often bother me. Gender, right, with women and what he expects from women and how he sees women and men. But I also am able to take people. I can sometimes agree with you and sometimes disagree with you. So I agreed with him in this take. Right. I feel like Anton was pushing a narrative that is going to anger most people. I almost want to believe that he doesn't really believe what he's saying, that he's just pandering to get attention. And I think a lot of times
clicks.
People I don't think there's no way that as a Black man in this country, he can sit there and say that he doesn't consider himself a color. Like that is ridiculous. I think that you can be a Christian and you're right. As of late, when you say you're a Christian, people assume that you are in line with this nationalism, and that's not true either. But I think we all have the ability to define ourselves. So you cannot tell me that I have to be either or. No, I am both. I am all of those things. I am a Black woman. I am a Christian. I am a mother. I'm a heterosexual woman. I am a wife. I all these things. You can't tell people that they have to choose. And you also can't tell people that I think the whole idea of racism and to say that Black people are the most racist, that is insulting. And that's one of those hills I can't go for. You cannot make a statement like that, because I think the way that African Americans show up in the world today is a direct reflection of what our culture has endured, our race has endured, for years. No way to say that and not be trying to be disrespectful. But I definitely, like I said, I definitely do not usually agree with Corey when it comes to gender issues. But when it comes to this, I could say I agree. But I do, lastly, I agree with you, is that this was just a conversation that was negative in its entirety, and it really didn't serve a purpose other than to make two Black men look really foolish in each other's faces.
Yeah, we don't need that in our culture. Extra. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All kinfolk is us. All skinfolk ain't kinfolk. I don't know. I'm just
absolutely. Well, we've had a good. I think this was a good time. This was a good Wednesday.
It was. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Good time.
I enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys, we are going to get out of here for today. We've gone a little bit over, but it's been a great conversation. Thank you guys that have contributed in the chat. If you're watching or if you're listening on Spotify or any other ways that you digest podcasts, thank you so much. Let us know your opinions on any of the topics that we've talked about today. And we will be back on Friday.
Yes, we will.
Same place, 9 a.m. on the West Coast, 12 p.m. East Coast. We'll see you guys on Friday.
See you guys later. Have a good day.
It's 12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West.
And this is Reprint.
This isn't breaking headlines. This is a second look with context added for perspective.
This is Reprint, edited after the headlines.